Hi, this is Paul. This is a rare Saturday in my office recording a video because my wife has something at school and I have to do some church things. And it's like, shoot, I can make a video because that's what I like to do. So I'm making a video because when I woke up this morning, I had time to tweet because that's what I like to do. And I woke up this morning, and as is so often the case, I wasn't thinking about anything in particular. I wasn't mulling over anything in particular last night when I was going to sleep. But I woke up and I just had a boom, an epiphany. And the epiphany is usually sort of based on what happened the day before. So all you secularists and atheists can say, see, dreams are just us processing stuff. There's no connection beyond our head. Our selves are completely buffered. And those of you who don't believe in the buffered self would say, see, God speaks through dreams. Maybe God does. I think God does, but I don't know that God spoke through this dream. I've had dreams before that I thought much more certain of, but not necessarily this one. But I just had this epiphany, and I knew that when you have this epiphany, you wake up, and unless you write it down or something, it'll sort of get flow down the stream of life, and it will pass away. And it has to do with our beloved T-Grog. Now, that some of you might or might not know T-Grog from the comment section, he is the individual that on a very reliable basis channels the spirit of new atheism in our midst. And so it's and his presence in our corner has caused a lot of, it's been a very interesting thing. And some people, of course, want me to ban him, and some people want me to keep not feeding the trolls, and some people want to engage. And so I had to process a lot of this, and so I did it on Twitter this morning. And so I wrote quite a long thread on Twitter, and thought I would read it and comment on my own thread, because that's the crazy, selfish YouTuber that I am. Yesterday in the live stream, we had our usual version of demonic possession in the hive mind by the creature known as T-Grog. Tim is a lovely man who plays troll, mostly in chat, but sometimes in video. And T-Grog has been on a number of videos, and a number of the smaller channels have had Randos conversations with him and heard his story. And he's a completely lovely man. And I would give him my wallet to hold and my car keys, and I would trust him with my family. And I mean, I've got absolutely no questions about the person Tim behind the T-Grog manifestation that comes now. As it turned out, of course, I linked him so I wouldn't subtweet him, and he said, demonic possession, you are a fundamentalist, Paul, no matter how much you deny it. I wasn't sure I ever claimed it or denied it, because I'm actually quite certain that we're not exactly sure what we mean by that word fundamentalist. And at the end of the video, it was lovely, because he basically told everyone that they should read the Bible more, and they should study the four Gospels more, and they should read church history more. And I completely agree with everything he said at the end of the video. That wasn't really the manifestation that I'm talking about, because I'm not really talking about Tim. I'm talking about the manifestation that happens. And he says, well, demonic possession, blah. And I said, well, I responded with this great couple of tweets, Cosmic Skeptic at the Dawkins-Peterson thing. I've never felt more like the corpus callosum. And then the tweet I really loved, well, this interview really kills two birds with one stone. Peterson, Dawkins, that's ridiculous. There aren't killing any birds, and we're not. And that's ridiculous. We aren't killing any birds. We are sitting here together. So yeah, it's sort of that way. And, so I, Twitter now lets you go beyond their limits. And so some tweets I did and some tweets I didn't. And I'm still seeing how I feel about that. When I broke from the tradition of not feeding the trolls, the usual clamor arose from some like Upcycle and Food Truck Emily that I was ruining the show. And because the normal process is don't feed the trolls. And that's a good little rule to have, a good rule of thumb. And generally speaking, just ignore the trolls, and because you don't want to give them any more power. And the word platforming came up, and I played with that. And I think I hope I didn't offend or frustrate poor Emily. But anybody who knows this little corners knows that this is a brave space and not a safe space. And so, if in fact you do arise, you may, you may be, words may be said to you, and you may be treated in ways that you don't particularly care for. But that is the internet, and so if you will come on to the stream in any one way or another, people will have opinions, and the internet being what it is, those opinions will be shared. They're likely right. We shouldn't feed the trolls. But I've seldom allowed the common sense ruminations of the show to get in the way of my curiosity. Part of what fascinates me about the dynamics of New Atheism, of which T-Grog is an anachronism, is how it regularly possesses the live chat. And you see, the thing is that there are other commenters who say things in the chat, but T-Grog, his possession manages in some ways to manifest and bring forth another spirit in the chat. And as I'm doing my question and answer, Friday question and answer, I'm just watching the live chat go, and everybody's responding to T-Grog, and he's just pushing their buttons. And of course, we are one massive button that he just can't help keep pushing. And I'm watching this dynamic, and I'm just thinking, this is so interesting, because I won't name them right now, although you may be named in the future. There are a few other accounts that troll just as hard as T-Grog, and they don't get the reaction that he does. So what's with that reaction? I want to know that, because here's the thing about the spirits that are possessing us and possessing the land and possessing the interwebs and possessing all of this stuff. It was a really salient moment when finally the word woke sort of captured what was happening. And I knew once, just like with Jesus, once a spirit gets named, their power already begins to recede. And, I'm still the, where am I? Boyce has Vervaekeon. I'm gonna have to watch that one. But I'm not anywhere near finished watching Snow White Wonder Woman parody. Oh, yes, I am a man. I do get hijacked. Where is this? It was. Oh, come on. Are you gonna make me type it? Boyce, Wokel, and Distributist. See if that does it. Yeah, there it is.
If you read,
really enjoying this conversation and really watching Wokel in full Wokel manifestation of himself, just long chunk, eating up chunks of time in the hive mind, just watching it all happen with this, and the Distributist is sort of carefully, because he's going to have to deal with Wokel, and Ben just listening carefully every now and then, just a little interjection. Ben is sort of like the chiropractor of conversations. Just everybody just waits, twist. So watching this thing manifest. So these spirits are. Oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say. I mean, Glenn Scrivener. I was pleased to hear Glenn Scrivener in a recent video. Now we're going to find that video. It's all changed with a big Trump in front talking about, I listened to that video, and I noticed he dropped progressive liberationism, which is my name for what early on the Distributist is talking about in terms of the post-war consensus. So I'm going to have to dig up that Rusty Reno video, because the particularly huge spirit that has been dominating a lot of what's been going on, we haven't fully named that spirit yet. Until that spirit gets effectively named, it can't really be tamed and controlled. And so, the more I watch what's happening in the world, the more I see how the language of spirit is so helpful in understanding just what's happening around us. And this is the re-enchantment of my vision, at least. It's the world has always been enchanted. We just haven't been able to see it. And again, I really did I make that video where I walked through. No, I didn't. I made that video where I walked through C.S. Lewis's treatment of the spirit of the age in the Pilgrim's Regress. I thought that was really masterful. And that's sort of what we're dealing with now, because these massive spirits are going through our culture and they're possessing parts of people. And of course, Tim isn't demon possessed. Tim is not living in a graveyard, naked, unable to be chained. But the Tim that manifests itself in the chat and in the comments and the live chat, and then the interaction between the live chat and Tim, I'm watching and say, oh, there are spirits at work here, and we have to be able to discern these spirits and see these spirits and sometimes name these spirits, because if we're not aware of the way that these spirits are working and moving, well, we're going to basically become pawns of these spirits. So what particularly fascinates me about the dynamics of New Atheism, of which T-Grog is and I use intentionally T-Grog and not his name Tim. I distinguish Tim from T-Grog because T-Grog is the online manifestation of Tim. It's the online avatar of Tim. And sometimes it's a face in a live stream, and sometimes it's just comments. And anybody who watches me knows too that I'm much more of a troll in the comment section. I love dropping into Grim Grizz's channel or Chad's channel or Luke's live stream and just trolling from the comment section. But because they know me to a degree, they know that for me the trolling is play, and we're playing with words and we're playing with ideas. And so, in that sense, I think T-Grog, to one degree or another, depending on to what degree he understands he's the manifestation of a spirit, is, doing this in the streams. New Atheism is a spirit that has seen its day and mostly waning, but continues to have a bit of power over the community that follows me. That fascinates me. While there are other trolls who sometimes even troll harder, the spirit of New Atheism continues to have some purchase over the reactivity mechanisms of many of my followers, and I find that dynamic intriguing. To confess, I might find it intriguing because it continues to have some purchase on me as well. Of course, what we're seeing is never only about what is out there. It is about what I am seeing and the perception, and again, what I've talked about in many, many, many videos. As is usually the case, that happened the day before. What happened the day before popped into my brain in a sideways way in the quiet early morning hours of the next day, sometimes as an epiphany. Sometimes these are really lame, bogus ideas, and sometimes they are helpful. The only way I know to distinguish which is to air them on my channel or here on Twitter or to talk to somebody else. Or sometimes you just sit on them for enough hours and it's like, yeah, that's a turd. Here on Twitter, and to allow the congregation of saints and trolls that inhabit such spaces to have their way with these virginal thoughts, to see what they are made of. So what occurred to me, this is the downside. Oh, come on, here we go. So it occurred to me about the spirit of New Atheism, and in fact, much skepticism about the strange Christian faith that has possessed much of the planet for 2,000 years, is this. The spirit of New Atheism isn't much more than the accusation that your matriarch in the deep recesses of time was a whore. That's what popped into my head. What is he doing when he's trolling? He's basically saying, your matriarch is a whore. Yeah, it's a weird space inside my head some days, but those of you who have been following the channel for the last 7 years, you're pretty aware of this. The spirit of New Atheism isn't much more than the accusation that your matriarch in the deep recesses of time was a whore. Your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was a whore, they claim. I just know it. It's obvious to the world that she was, they claim. Such a claim naturally offends the sensibilities of her children, and they rise to defend her. They are insulted, offended, and even angry at such an accusation. That accounts for the triggering. But the spirit is more curious Beyond that, I think, why? When asked to display the receipts for such an offensive accusation against a beloved matriarch, because this group claims that one may believe in sanctity only upon offering receipts, they have no receipts to offer. And this is the funniest thing. Because, of course, they say, your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was a whore. And we'd say, prove it. Well, because you're in the business of building up from foundations. You're in the business of having all of the receipts. This is about evidence. This is about receipts. They're like accountants, and they demand receipts of others. But part of the reason it's waning is because they have no receipts themselves. It is, of course, the strangest dynamic. It is as if an accountant shows up to do an audit demanding receipts going back centuries, when the accountant himself claims that any claims must be fraudulent without receipts, even though that same account, like everyone else, needed to be reworded. I wrote this early in the morning. Cannot produce receipts on their own. They have no receipts to the other way. It's just claims. It's a funny dynamic, one that should normally provoke amusement and mockery for some strange twist of culture recently. It's tolerated and even venerated. It would be like if someone came to Living Stones and banged on the door and they'd say, I'm here to do an audit. Bring out all of your documentation. Well, who are you? I'm the receipt checker. And unless you produce receipts, your great-great-grandmother is a whore. Oh, okay. At some point, one might ask, why do you suppose our beloved matriarch is a whore? I think they would try everything to deny giving us a true response to this. The only answer that is possible, I think, that answer would be that all mothers are whores unless proven otherwise by said receipts. Because I think that is the spirit beneath. All mothers are whores unless proven otherwise. Oh, wow. You must then ask them, well, what sort of receipts would it be possible to claim that such claims besides the testimony of the woman? The answer would be that they themselves are the ultimate judges of chastity. They simply know a chaste woman when they see one, and if pressed, you're not even really sure unless evidence exists, perhaps by locking a woman in a tower and keeping all of the video records of her life from puberty forward. It's the only way to know. Oh. Again, I've been reading The Blind Spot, and this dealing of the question of science and the laboratory. It's just well done in that book by saying, in fact, I was just talking to someone who has to do physics lessons for elementary school teachers, and she was saying to me, on one hand, physics is so much fun to teach, but so often the experiments don't work out. And it's like, I don't think that Newtonian mechanics changes from year to year. Why don't the experiments work out? Oh, because Newtonian's physics is within a context, and the things we do are within labs. And it's sort of like, well, this is how we know the virginal bride speaks the truth, because we've got her in a box, and she is not with a fox, and we've kept her here, and she has in no way touched anything real out in the world. She is our prisoner, and so we study her. I better reread this tweet so you don't lose it. You must then ask them, well, what sort of receipts would be possible for such claims beyond the testimony of a woman? The answer would be that they themselves are the ultimate judges of chastity. They simply know a chaste woman when they see one, and if pressed, they're not sure one has ever existed except those locked in a tower under video camera surveillance. This then presents an awful conundrum for anyone who loves mothers, aunts, sisters, grandmothers, matriarchs, or even wives. One wonders how possessors of the spirit of new atheism can live with themselves at such a horrifying thought, and yet they do. At some point, a smart psychologist or perhaps an old, seasoned person might suggest, I think someone with such a jaundiced view of the virtue of women must have been hurt by one. And it's probably a likely thought, but it can't account for the entire spirit. What is seldom realized in this strange turn of events is how the community of lovers of their grandmothers tolerate this strange group of people running around making such offensive claims. Many people in the world who are confronted with a group of people who absolutely exalt running around claiming your matriarch is a whore are usually taken into a corner and bloodied, because most people rather naturally wish to defend the honor of the mothers they love. This then draws me to the strangeness of my audience. They love our beloved Tim, and even to a degree the T-Grog, who shows up in the avatars of our platforms. Not because he says such terrible things about our mother, but because many of us used to say such terrible things as well. And what's worse, we believed them. Many in our community used to live under the doubt and shape of such an accusation, which is whispered in our ears by something cruel that wants to set up a ghostly dynamic. Anyone who dares believe in the chastity of our mothers without proper receipts is a fool. And that's when I drop a link. I won't play it because, of course, who knows what YouTube will do it. The 1972 man of La Mancha, Dulcinea. Here is this crazy man looking at this woman that all the other men laugh at the interchange. How can she be a woman of virtue? And they laugh and they mock. She doesn't know what to do with him, but she knows what to do with them. So the reason for the emergence of the spirit of New Atheism triggers such an obsessive reaction is because those who most recently discovered the power to believe in chastity wish it for their friends, and in some ways perhaps brothers of the same mother. And Twitter being Twitter, just on cue, one of the Twitter sex box liked the last tweet in the list, which I thought was absolutely perfect and poignant. So the spirit of New Atheism continues to recede. These things happen slowly. They never fully go away. They didn't really start after 9/11. They've always been around. They just pop up and they have their day upon the stage, and then they recess. But I think it's helpful when we look at the dynamics to say, what's with that? What's going on here? Can we name this? Can we figure it out? Can we try to get a sense of why we do the strange things that we do? Leave a comment.